Greetings, welcome back to Prophetic Forecast, and hey, welcome to our brand new channel, Golden Thread Ministries. I hope you've subscribed to this channel. If you haven't, pause me, go subscribe right away. You're not going to want to miss some of the programs, the Bible studies, the things that we have upcoming. I got lots of big plans here in my head, and I want to make sure you don't miss out on anything. Beginning next month, we're still going to be here on this channel, but we're probably going to have a little different format. But we'll learn as we go into a new month. June, though, was full of violent acts from society, nature, history, just from the beginning throughout the rest of the month. Just a lot of violence, and I don't even have time to go through, the drone bombings that we just did in the Middle East. We, as Americans, just did in the Middle East. I didn't even have time to get that in because I'd already finished this up and was preparing to film. But to get us started, I want to mention something really cool because it actually has a cool story to it. Our youngest son, Titus, was baptized during the month of June at the base of Mount Whitney. Now, the interesting part of the story is that the road to the parking lot up there was actually closed on Friday because of a fire. It was open on Sabbath afternoon, and it was a beautiful day up there. And then on Sunday, it was closed yet again and is still closed. We're 10 days later, and it's still closed because of a different fire in the area. Lots of fires that have been being battled here in June, largely, of course, due to a severely dry winter. The West Coast certainly is burning in two ways, both figuratively with the heat wave that already has come through the Southwest, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and is now currently hitting the PNW, the Pacific Northwest. And it's just hot. I mean, I had someone who's up in that area say it was like 114, and that's almost unheard of up there. One Canadian city in British Columbia broke its record by far. I heard Portland just about broke its record. I mean, it's just hot. But also, it's burning up literally because of the wildfires that are burning. Here's just, this is a couple days old now. I mean, just look how many fires there are. In the western United States, there are 43 wildfires burning, most of them happening in the states of California and Arizona. Maybe most notably this month is the Backbone Fire in Arizona, which has burned well over 33,000 acres now in just a few days with 0% containment, at least as of the filming. I have friends in the Camp Verde area, in the Payson area, and it's just crazy as I watch updates and pictures and videos, how fast this fire is moving, how dangerous this fire is, how much smoke is up there. Just like the fires here at the Mount Whitney area that we were dealing with, the Backbone Fire began by a lightning strike. And I was up in the mountains yesterday, in fact. I had a wonderful time out on Convict Lake in the eastern Sierra Nevadas. And there was lightning all over the place. And then today I was up in Mammoth, and as I drove back to home, you saw spotters all over up in the mountains. You saw park rangers, you saw trucks, you saw deputies all over the place watching the hills with binoculars, seeing during these lightning storms if anything was taking place. The lack of water has been really damaging to our planet, both from the dry winter and just overall groundwater usage. We're using a lot of water out of the ground to take care of our massive populations, our massive diets, our livestock. Just a lot of water is being sucked up out of the ground. And, let's be honest. I mean, you think countries have fought over oil or gold or power, land before. Just wait. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to happen, but just imagine what it would be like if they were fighting over water. I mean, just brutal stuff would happen. If that day ever comes, I mean, it'd be really, really violent, wouldn't it? But water issues, and maybe I should add that the issues aren't, they're debatable exactly what the issue is. But these issues with water, regardless of what the cause is, these issues are creating large sinkholes all throughout the planet, in fact. We'll just take, for example, a few of them. Notice this one in central Mexico this month. It's massive. This thing's huge. Appearing actually at the end of May, but growing each day as it entered into June. The sinkhole started out as a 16-foot long sinkhole, but within hours became the size of a football field, which is 300 feet long, measuring over 400 feet wide now and over 50 feet deep. Just incredible. This massive sinkhole that just opened up. The family that lives in this home had to be evacuated. Their home did eventually collapse. It's part of it is up there, but the rest of the home did actually collapse. Their 2 dogs were still in the home, but by the grace of God, the dogs were actually rescued. Another one in Australia just took place. This is at the the limestone coast of Australia, and it's just again sinkholes all over the place. We got more to talk about too, and it's not just sinkholes, but a whole entire town is sinking. Not far from where I grew up is the city of Corcoran, out in the Central Valley of California. It's literally sinking. It's going about 2 feet a year, actually, and they've had to spend millions of dollars fixing the levee and all kinds of things, trying to make sure that they can save the town as it sinks into the earth. The city, by the way, is famous for its prison. It has housed many different infamous characters. Dana Ewell, Sirhan, who was found guilty of shooting Robert Kennedy. Scott Peterson, the Golden Gate Killer. Charles Manson was there. The Night Stalker, and many others actually live there that are infamous. And again, just this whole entire town is sinking because of issues with underground water. This is right in the area of ranch lands. This is, in fact, it's called the farming capital of California. The farming capital of California is how Corcoran is known. And they're just using a lot of the groundwater. It's all necessary. I'm not trying to be an environmentalist here or anything. It's just, it needs a lot of water, and we're just seemingly running out of water. Issues with the water supplies under the ground. NASA, speaking about some satellite evidence it had, is actually warning the town, hey, this is about to speed up. You've got to do something faster now because your whole town, it's 2 feet a year over the last 14 years, but they're saying, hey, something drastic is about to happen, and the whole city is trying to figure out what to do. As cities get larger and larger and demands for water grow larger and larger, farmers are living in the area. They're just sucking the water right out of the ground. And lots and lots of issues there with that soil. Then, of course, maybe the biggest piece of news in June, here in America at least, is Surfside, Florida. There was a 12-story condo which collapsed in the middle of the night. As of filming, at least 15 have been verified dead, more than 100 still missing, and it's been several days now. I mean, it's probably closing in on a week now. The building is in the midst of an investigation already for cracking. Before anything fell, it was already being investigated whether or not it was habitable or not. And you can see from the destruction, I mean, it's just scary, scary stuff that took place. One woman was actually awake in the middle of the night just prior to the collapse, and she's still missing, sadly. But she had called her husband because out of her window she saw the pool just suddenly turn into a massive sinkhole. And so right as she said that sentence, he says that the phone line instantly went dead. One local engineer has already come forward stating that he had told people years ago, about a decade ago, that the building was sinking, that there were issues, that there was sinkholes forming, and the building was starting to crack and to fall apart because of the ground underneath of it. One report from 3 years was that it was that the sinking was causing so much structural damage, and that's actually why it was already being investigated. But here's the problem. Here's the sick thing about the business world in which we live. None of the residents had been warned. No one knew. People hadn't been told, hey, evacuate or get out of the building, or, your lease is, we're going to just throw out your lease or stay at your own risk. Nothing. No one knew of anything. It's pretty scary. It's not just land that is sinking either, but America's morality as well. Meet Lucifer. Some of you may have already watched this television show. I hope not. Some of you may have at least heard of the television show. But this show was originally on Fox, but is now hosted by Netflix. And it just wrapped up season 5. And of course, it's about Lucifer himself. It's a fictional drama about what would happen if Lucifer came to live here as a human. In fact, here's a brief synopsis of what the show's about. Lucifer, morning star, bored from his sulking life in hell, comes to live in Los Angeles, the city of angels, by the way. While there, he helps. Yeah, you read that right. He helps humanity with its miseries through his experience and telepathic abilities to bring people's deepest desires and thoughts out of them. Sound like Genesis 3 at all to you? Does it sound like what he really tells the world he's doing, right? I can help you. I'll get you through your misery. You're missing out on something. He uses telepathic abilities and experience. I mean, this is what he's trying to use on Eve in Genesis 3 was his experience, right? Oh, you're missing out on something. And the whole idea is that he's helping humanity. Let's keep reading the synopsis here. While meeting with a detective in his nightclub, a shootout involving him and the detective leads him to become an LAPD consultant who tries to, catch this, punish people for their crimes through law and justice. I mean, this is the synopsis on IMDb, the International Movie Database, which is a main website for those of you who aren't internet savvy. I mean, this is a main website for any movie, any TV show, and has all. This is the synopsis right there on. That's where I got it from. This is entertainment today. This is the kinds of things that people are watching and engrossed in. Things that they want to discuss around the water cooler. These are, and it's not just this. I mean, all kinds of shows are just full of violence, nastiness, seductiveness, sexuality, all kinds of just grotesque celebration of sin. And this is just right there at the top of it. Just the synopsis alone makes me, sick. Lucifer leaving hell to be one of the good guys of sorts, right? Helping people through law and justice. Now, we've been warned about this kind of thing in the last days. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20 says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." We've been warned, woe to those who do this. And the more and more our world does this, the more and more our world says, this evil act is good. You can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me how to feel. These things that the Bible calls sin are actually good and pleasant to me. That's what they want to say. The more the world does it, the more our restrainer is pushed away, the more the Holy Spirit is pushed away, and the more the world falls apart. But this show has actually been around, like I just said. It just wrapped up season 5. So the fact that this show's out there isn't new. So why are we talking about it in our prophetic forecast? Well, here's why. In June, it actually spiked to the #1 show on Netflix. Now, while the show has its hardcore fans, the reason it was bumped from Fox to Netflix, well, I guess it's debatable with Fox. Sometimes they throw out shows with good ratings, but this show had decently okay ratings, but it was kind of bumped out by Fox. They decided to show other things, but then Netflix picked up. So it's not like this is some massively huge popular show like Game of Thrones or something. I mean, this is just in terms of the ratings world, it's a mediocre show. But suddenly in June, it spiked to the #1 show on Netflix. So why? What happened? Well, from the website Distractify, which is such a cool name for a website. I wish I had thought of that. Just Distractify. I like to distractify people from, I know that's not a real word, but I like to distractify people from the world of Zen and turn them to Jesus. I think it's a cool name. But anyway, the website Distractify says this about what happened as the, as the cliffhanger to season 5. Here's what it says. After God decides to retire. This is the show. This is what the show is saying. This is the storyline. It's ridiculous. After God decides to retire, he basically tells his sons it's up to them to figure out who the new ruler of the universe would be. Although God has always been a somewhat absent father to the angels and humans, he's really going to be absent. It's no surprise that not only do they make Lucifer the good guy, but they make God the dumb-witted, absent-minded father, right? In fact, Hollywood is full of this. It amazes me. Any show you put on, the mother is the organized one, the one who holds the family together. The dad is the slob. The dad is crazy. The dad is goofy. The dad is immature. All right, so that's most American homes anyway, though, isn't it? But in the story of God, they've made God the bad guy, the absent-minded guy. And now he's going to retire, and he's not just going to pull back a little bit. He's not going to just take a Sabbath rest or a sabbatical. He's going to be really absent. He's gone. Keep reading. Here's what it says. In fact, he's leaving our entire universe to be with the goddess in her universe. So, not one universe, there's at least 2. And another one is ruled by a female, and this God of this universe is going to go take off and ditch us so that he could be with his goddess, his love of his life. Ahead of his departure, and then apparently he has 3 sons. By the way, I have to get this stuff off the internet because I had no idea what the show's about. But apparently he has 3 sons. So ahead of his departure, Michael, supposedly one of his sons, Michael had already begun campaigning to become the new god. Amenadiel isn't interested, but Lucifer has his own plans to be God. Yeah. You heard it here first. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Hollywood is ridiculous. All right. I realize they're not teaching this as fact. They're not teaching this as spirituality. It's just entertainment. And there's that big argument. Oh, it's just entertainment. What is... But it's warping the minds of the world. It's warping the minds of kids. It's warping the minds of children. Listen, I've worked with kids for years and years and years now. Parents, listen to this. I can promise you think, I send my kids in another room, or they're watching their own thing in the back, or they're not paying attention. They are. I've heard stories of things that they've heard, things they've seen on TV that their parents are watching. I've heard plenty of stories. They're watching this kind of stuff, and it's warping the brains of our youth. This show, God's the absent-minded dimwit. Lucifer's the hero. He's helping us, and he's punishing the bad guys by law and justice. God takes off. God wants to just ditch us, and he has his 3 sons try to figure out God's so absent-minded, he doesn't even care. He's not going to be like, hey, you, or hey, you. He's just like, forget it, guys. I'm out. You guys figure it out. Michael wants it. Lucifer wants it. They're playing. This is truth and error, right? They're mixing truth and error of Revelation 12, the war in heaven between Michael and the dragon, right? And Lucifer. And then they've tossed in Aminadiel, who's just not interested. All right. So it turns out in this, and this is why, this is the reason, this storyline, this cliffhanger is why it spiked to the #1 show on Netflix. So the hardcore fans watched it. They went on social media and said, everybody, you've got to see this. And people started watching it. And then boop, 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 it spiked to the #1 show. So in this storyline, it turns out that Lucifer has a human love interest. She is killed by Michael. And as her soul goes back to heaven, Lucifer chases after it into heaven too. But since he's been kicked out of heaven, Lucifer is going to die for entering into heaven. But he's willing to sacrifice himself for the love of his life. Real story, Jesus descended to save the love of his life, you. This entertainment, Lucifer ascends into the heavens, right out of Isaiah, which is what he wanted to do, for the love of his life. Okay, so Lucifer makes it to heaven. He dies in heaven while saving her life and sends her soul back to her body on earth. And because he has sacrificed himself for love, God brings him back to life and then makes him, Lucifer, God. And when he realizes it, apparently he says, oh my me. Cliffhanger. What happens? Season 6, you gotta wait. Everyone's on their phones. You've got to go on and watch Lucifer. This is amazing stuff. And, spiked up to the #1 show on Netflix in June. America marathoned it. America caught up to speed. And now so many can't wait to see what Lucifer will do as God in season 6. This is the world, folks, that we live in. The world we live in. I don't want to be here anymore. I hope you don't want to be here anymore. It's not even the strangest news of the month. Let's turn our attention to the mysterious brain disease in Canada, which is causing people to see the dead. That's what they're calling it, a disease. This unnamed disease, as medical experts are calling it a disease, it has struck one Canadian province in particular, where 48 residents of New Brunswick, including the 20-year-old Gabrielle, who is seen actually in the picture, started experiencing muscle fatigue, twitching, insomnia, impaired motor skills, and, quote, what they're calling it, nightmarish visions of the dead. And actually, you can see that she's on a cane because of this disease. And while the medical world is calling it an illness, a disease, claiming that it's a mystery, how long until they claim it's something else? How long until they claim that it really is visions from the dead, visions from hell, or visions of the angel of light? Or it's going to spread. Going to spread like it's already. We've talked about this before. The the fastest growing religion in America right now is spiritualism, talking to the dead. It's happening as we get closer and closer to those deceptions in the last days. We will see a stronger and stronger growth of the wicked supernatural. And the world, who is so in love with shows like Lucifer, shows where there's magic, shows where there's, infighting, shows where there's sex and violence and all these things, they're so in love with it, they're just going to swallow this stuff right up when it starts happening in our lives. We're going to become what we eat, right? What we put into our heads. The world is becoming that more and more. All right, because lawlessness is abounding, and hearts are growing colder and colder, flying has become more dangerous in the last year. And I'm not talking about COVID. We will talk about COVID, but when I say that flying has become dangerous, I'm not talking because of disease. Unruly passengers are ruling and ruining air travel for many. There are so many unruly passengers on American flights that most major airlines have banned alcohol on the planes, unless you're first class. Then they can have alcohol because, the rich in America are refined, right? That top 1%, 2% of those rich, they can handle it. We're just the peons outside the city gates, right? Anyway, but they've actually had to take a stand, these airlines, and say, hey, no, we can't have alcohol in our flights because there's just too much fighting, too many unruly passengers. The ban on alcohol was supposed to be temporary. They all announced it would be like for a few weeks, kind of like when a dad says, hey, stop that back there, I'm going to turn this car around, right? And the dads never do really turn it around because you're going somewhere. But that's kind of that threat. It was this temporary threat. Hey, we're gonna stop selling alcohol for a bit. But now, as tempers continue to flare, they've banned it even longer. Now it's into September, I believe, for most flights. It didn't help at all. In 2019, only a year and a half ago, folks, 146 reports to the FAA of violent acts on planes. The whole entire year, all of 2019, 146 reports to the FAA of violence on planes. Now, there was probably more violence than that, but these are the ones reported to the FAA. In 2021, and we're only through the month of June. We're halfway. More than 3,000 reports of violent acts have gone to the FAA, where people have actually been reported and permanently banned from flights for things they've done. Many have been permanently banned, not all of them. So look at that number. 2019, 146. 2021, 3,000 plus, half a year, a whole year. Don't tell me the things we watch don't mess with our minds. In response to this, flight attendants are now being trained in self-defense by the FAA. Stewards and stewardesses are being trained, flight attendants are being trained on self-defense. How to protect themselves and how to protect their passengers. A couple of stories here from the month of June, some notable ones. This poor flight attendant was punched in the face, lost 2 teeth. I didn't want to show you the video. I've seen the video. I mean, it's pretty tough. That lady hits her hard. There's not just a back away from me punch. I mean, this is to hurt her, to maim her kind of punch. She lost 2 teeth. She's bleeding on her face. You could see a cut under her eye. Why? The flight attendant asked her to put on her seatbelt. Yeah. Put on your seatbelt. Boom. Another woman was yanking hair and kicking passengers because she refused to wear her mask on a plane. Now, you could be anti-mask all you want. You could decide not to wear masks all you want. But you know you're going to have to wear it when you go on the plane. So if you don't want to wear it, you don't go on the plane. It's that simple. She knows she's going to have to wear it. Yanking hair, kicking passengers because she didn't want to wear her mask. Another man on a flight from LA to Nashville tried to breach the cockpit, tried to kick his way into the cockpit. And he had to be zip-tied and left in a bathroom for the rest of the flight, or at least until they landed somewhere to have him arrested. Then just a few days ago, another man in LA got into an altercation, into a fight, and he opened the door of the plane while it was taxiing on the runway. And the big inflatable slide came out, and he jumped down the slide. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't think I'll be flying anytime soon. Another thing I want to mention, this is heartbreaking news. Every death is heartbreaking, every death. But last on the subject of hearts growing cold, through the month of May, already in the United States, just in the first 5 months of May, the first 5 months of 2021, of course, 37 police officers have been murdered while on duty in the United States. Now, I'm not talking about accidents, car accidents, things, that have happened, or accidental shootings, or, whatever. The males have happened while on duty, but specifically targeted and murdered, 37. And you can read about any of these subjects in the articles down below. You've got those in the description down below. All right, before we get to the Delta variants and the mutations of coronavirus, there's another thing that was in the news this month. We've been talking about lots of signs in the skies. We just talked about the violence in the skies on the planes. But we've been talking about signs in the skies throughout our whole series on prophecy. That the devil's turning eyes up for supernatural acts or different things, fear and things happening in the sky. We've noticed that over the last 2 years or so, a lot of comets have been passing by, a lot of asteroids have been passing by, a lot of new things have been discovered. And we talked about the UFO report that was coming out, and it's a huge disappointment because they didn't really tell us anything. Those who have read the whole report have said, there's nothing really in here. There's no interesting news, there's no photos, there's no videos. It's just kind of, it's a big, huge disappointment. But something else was taking place, and it's actually kind of cool. This comet is actually coming towards the inner solar system from the Oort cloud area of the solar system. And this comet is the largest comet ever measured, ever seen by telescope. Now, the Oort cloud area is a very large area surrounding our solar system. It's kind of like, as you're transitioning, I guess you could say, from outer space into the solar system, that transition is an Oort cloud area of gases and rocks. And apparently, this huge piece of ice, a comet, has taken off from the Oort cloud and has been heading in this direction. Now, it was actually discovered in 2014, but no one actually realized they discovered it. It was seen, it was measured without even realizing it until more recently when people went back and looked at the records. Were like, oh, wow, what's that? That's in the records, but no one had caught it. This comet is about 10 times bigger than any other comet measured. It has an estimated diameter, and it's still estimated because it's still coming closer, and so they want to do more studies on it. But its estimated diameter is 90 miles long. It's crazy. 90 miles in diameter. That's huge. 10 times. So, the other large comets are at 9 miles. This is 90 miles in diameter. Now, it won't come anywhere near the Earth, it's believed, but it will come the closest to the Sun in 2031, so about 10 years from now, before it begins its path back to the Oort cloud. And it will, the Oort cloud's so far out there, and this thing's moving, I guess, relatively slow compared to, the way things move in space. And so it'll take a million or 2 years to get back to the Oort cloud before it bends back around towards the inner side of the solar system. So we'll never see it again, folks. So this is a one-time opportunity here for our planet. It's pretty cool. Very, very massive comet, very massive orbit. If you want more information, there's a really cool, interesting article down below in the description, and you can catch a lot more information. All right, let's talk about the Delta mutation. The new variant of coronavirus, which is beginning to sweep its way around the world. That began in India. did a lot of destruction in India, sadly. Australia and South Africa have now needed to close down because of the concerns over this variant. And as of June 16th, there were about 200 cases known in the world of this Delta variant. And most of those, 83, I believe, most, or at least the nation with the most is actually the United States. And it's beginning to spread quickly here in the state of California, more specifically Los Angeles County. It's more dangerous, they say. It's more contagious. There are more concerns about it from those who trust the vaccine, that the vaccine will not protect against it, which means that the world will need another vaccine. Then maybe another and another, because this virus, as we've been learning and noticing, maybe at the beginning, some of us said, oh, it's not that big of a deal, and maybe it wasn't a big deal, but it just continues to mutate and grow and change and adapt, and it's doing so with the vaccine as well. It's becoming more and more resilient. Coronavirus is here to stay, folks. It's not going away anytime soon. In fact, the World Health Organization is still advising people to wear masks because of the variant. And doctors around the United States are encouraging Americans that the WHO is right, that the World Health Organization is right, that people should still be wearing masks because this Delta variant is coming, and they're claiming, I'm not stating this as fact, I'm saying what they're saying. They're saying this thing is even more powerful. In fact, fully vaccinated people are still at a risk with this particular variant, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease. And so they're saying, hey, your vaccine is going to help with the original COVID-19, but these mutations are now starting to become more resilient to it. So far, they're saying that if you're vaccinated, you'll have less symptoms and you're less likely to die, less likely to end up in a hospital. Maybe that's true. I'm just repeating what they're saying. But the Delta variant is very, very, very real. And it is definitely looking to be more dangerous and, hey, could be leading towards another shutdown. So I'm not a doctor. I don't know these things. I'm just repeating what is now in the news. And whether you want to believe it or not, totally up to you. I'm just stating that the world, many around the world are saying, uh-oh, we're in for it. This thing is growing, it's mutating, it's changing, it's learning. Almost like it's becoming its own life form. To further prove that this virus is smarter than you think, let's look at a recent story from South Africa. This was in the news here in June. A 35-year-old woman who has an advanced case of HIV had symptoms and positive tests for COVID-19 for 216 straight days. For 216 straight days, she was in a hospital with heavy symptoms. Doctors were doing everything they could to keep her alive, and as far as I know, she's still alive. I haven't heard that she's died. But for 216 straight days, she had heavy symptoms, was testing positive, and her body just could not beat this virus. While she was being tested over these 216 days, the virus inside her body, in 216 days, folks, the virus inside her body mutated 32 times. 13 times it mutated the spike protein, which helps it fight the body's immune system. So I know many of us are saying, I have an immune system. I trust my immune system. That's fine and dandy. You're welcome to. It is your body. It's your choice. Trust your immune system. I believe in my immune system. But 13 times this spike protein learned how to work around the body's immune system. 32 total times it mutated. 19 of those times it mutated other behaviors and learned other things to do. It's still being studied whether or not HIV played a part in this, if it was this a certain specific strand of COVID-19 that she had and actually was doing all those things without the HIV, or if the two were actually working together. If the two viruses actually learned to, in some way, in their own way, communicate and work together, or at least that's one option, or maybe just that as HIV did what it was doing, COVID did what it was doing, and they worked off of each other maybe non-consciously. I'm sure it's non-conscious, but it's just amazing that these two viruses could do this to this young woman. You know, Jesus warned us of pestilences in the last days, and not only are we seeing different kinds of diseases, but now we have a disease itself, by itself, that is mutating faster than we can keep up. Here's where Jesus says this, Matthew 24:7-8. For nation will rise against nation. We see that, kingdom against kingdom. We see that. That actually means more family against family, by the way, but that's a topic for another day, but we're seeing that a lot too. There will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. You know, the earthquakes in various places, but the pestilences and famines in various places, diverse places too, spreading and popping up all over, just like this pestilence, COVID, is mutating and popping up all over, in various places, in various forms. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Now, we're way past the beginning of sorrows. We're deeper into the birth pangs, right? These things are speeding up, and the sorrows are growing greater and greater. The last topic I'd like to get into today, by the way, I do want to talk more about what's coming up later this year. We've got, I already mentioned in our last episode about the Catholic Conference coming up in October. We also have COP26, the United Nations agenda about climate change and what the Pope is doing to be a big leader in that. I want to get to that topic, but it needs a lot more information. There's some great videos out now about it. You could check those out. You could look for that COP, C-O-P, just like COP, like police officer, COP26. But I'm actually purposely waiting a little bit because there really isn't. There's a lot of theories and a lot of opinions, and I don't mind sharing theories and opinions too, but I'm going to wait just a little bit before I have a specific targeted discussion of it, because what they're saying so far about the actual facts of it, it's really, really, really thin. So I'm going to wait at least a month here, and I hope to get to it. Maybe I'll have a special one in 2 weeks. I doubt it, but I'll see. But maybe I'll wait till next month to speak more about COP26. And I'm mentioning it just because I know a lot of people might actually already be aware of it and were wondering if I was going to get to it. I want to see a little bit more information specifically from them about it before I speak up about it. But there is one more topic I want to mention about the violent acts that were pinpointed or focused on or actually occurred in June. This one has been in the news quite a bit about the mass grave found in Kamloops, British Columbia. The remains of 215 children, indigenous children, were found outside of an old Indian school. It's just a sad thing that what we did, what our nations did to the indigenous peoples in Canada and America. And that one's been in the news, and most of you may not know that several other sites have popped up because, you know, the local communities all have stories. They all know what's going on. And all it took was for one to pop up, and then suddenly everyone else is like, oh yeah, we've got one too. Dig there. Dig over there. Oh, follow me. Here. Let's go a mile, and then it's right over here. And so now several of them are popping up, including another site with 750 bodies at the Marival Indian School, also in Canada. And I don't want you to think it's just Canada either. Talk to Native American, maybe in your congregation, in your community, especially if they've attended one of these Indian schools. I was privileged to be a part of a wonderful Indian school in Holbrook that had nothing to do with this a centuries old treatment of Native Americans. It's a healing place, a wonderful place. But you talk to some of these people who have been to some of those schools where they beat you for speaking your native tongue, or make you cut your hair, make you change your names, make you wear suits, get out of your savage gear, they may say. You talk to some of these people who have attended those, or have parents who attended those. Some really rough, ridiculously sick and disgusting stories come out of these places. So I thought it would be important to remind you that what I keep hearing in the media, what I keep seeing on headlines is, grave, grave, grave. Everyone's focused, on the grave or the site. Let's not dehumanize it. Let's talk about the bodies. Let's talk about the people. Let's talk about the children that were lost. Let's not call it a grave. Let's not call it a site. Let's say the bodies, the 215 bodies that were found. People died because they believed different. People died because they were different, because they acted different. They had different morals. Just the mistreatment of people historically by, some of these stories happen in Canada. There's a whole lot in the United States. And in fact, it's not just Indigenous people either. Here in June, several bodies have been found near the 1921 Tulsa massacre site. Including children have been pulled out of mass graves, and a man's skull was found with bullet holes all in it. Our nation is the two-sided coin, right? We're the lamb-like beast, but we also speak like a dragon. Our history is full of both, and what has happened in our past is going to happen again very, very soon, according to Revelation chapter 13. Friends, family, it's time to wake up. It's time to get prepared. We've got to focus on Jesus. Stay focused on Jesus, please. If you're a Christian, listen, I know there's lots of things you can get angry about. Just a couple days ago, a young lady, an athlete at the Olympic trials, turned her back to the flag and wouldn't listen to the national anthem. I'm not a fan of that either. I wouldn't do that. Even though I speak out against the issues in America, and I've got massive issues with America, that's just not my cup of tea. I'm not the kind of guy who's going to stage a protest or kneel or turn my back on the flag. At the same time, too many of us as Christians are so quick and willing to speak up about it and in defense of the flag on Facebook and in social media. And those same Christians are so silent about Jesus Christ. Stay focused on Jesus. He's our only hope. Keep your eyes open to prophecy. Keep your eyes upon Jesus and see what He has in store for you today.